Secular humanism is now the dominant religious worldview of our government, our laws. It's taught in our schools and promoted by media.
Under the guise of value-neutral education, students learn that alternative lifestyles are good and that there are no ultimate moral standards. The ideologies of political correctness and multiculturalism are openly endorsed in the classroom. While most educators do not call themselves secular humanists and rarely promote a humanist agenda, it is the organized minority who preach their humanistic principles, often cloaked behind terms such as values clarification, self-esteem, multiculturalism, and political correctness. Thomas Sowell, a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and author of Inside American Education, writes that while the organized secular humanist movement might seem to be a small fringe group, its impact on education is out of all proportion to its size. For many educators, the mere acknowledgement of the God of the Bible is considered offensive. Dr. Paul Vitz, a professor of psychology at New York University, was commissioned by the U.S. government to study the state of education in our public schools.
Well, I did a study on textbook bias, and I looked at grammar school textbooks. And the main thing to keep in mind is that they were very anti-Christian, but in a very funny way. They were anti-Christian, and particularly, I might add, anti-Protestant, by leaving out all references to Christianity. This was the common procedure. You omit it. You don't make nasty statements about it, but after all, somebody might notice those. But you leave it out. And by leaving it out, you're making the implicit comment that it's not important.
Through their strong political influence, secular humanists have been able to effectively censor the positive Christian influences on American history. A child enrolled in a public school today, learning only what the public school taught, would naturally emerge a secular humanist. Students in today's public schools are learning to replace a faith in God with what John Dewey called the common faith, a faith in man as the measure of all things. Humanists have not always hidden their agenda. Charles Francis Potter once wrote, "Education is the most powerful ally of humanism, and every American public school is a school of humanism." What can the theistic Sunday schools, meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children, do to stem the tide of a 5-day program of humanistic teaching?
The beliefs of the secular humanist worldview continue to bear fruit in today's society. Because man is nothing more than a highly evolved animal, because there are no ultimate moral standards by which we should live, and because man has no inherent purpose, our society no longer defends or honors the biblical standards of right and wrong, the sanctity of life, or the truth that people are created in the image of God.
We do have, unfortunately, I think, an establishment of religion that the secularists who oppose the under God portion of Pledge of Allegiance have in large part successfully imposed on the United States of America, and that is the religion of secular humanism. That in many circles, that is in government and elsewhere the kind of the established religion, and that is problematic from my standpoint. If we are truly going to not be proselytizing and pushing any particular religion, certainly secular humanism is a religion, and those who are hostile to the Christian faith want that to be the established religion.
Secular humanism does have religious tenets. It's a religion with no God, but it's still nevertheless a religious
All education means to draw out. That's the whole meaning of education. But you draw out of the student into something. You draw him out to something else. And it's either an extension of the original kingdom mandate that the parent has when he brought the child into the world, or it's an extension of the humanist mandate. The public schools, by law, by Supreme Court decisions beginning in the early 1960s, have been prohibited from teaching anything which is called sectarian. What is prohibited is anything that relies upon the Bible as an infallible document. That cannot, by law, be taught in the public schools. And so the system, from a legal standpoint, is closed to anything that asserts the authority of the Bible. To say that any area of life is not under the authority of God is to say that there are whole areas of life that are not under the burden of sin. If you look at the number of hours that your child spends in his day, you would be unwise to have the child spending a great deal of time allocating that time to the kingdom of man. The child is drawn out into service, and the question is, choose this day whom you will serve. And you only have two choices. It's either autonomous man, that is under Adam, under the fallen covenant of Adam, or you're under the covenant of Christ. There's no third covenant. Jesus made it clear when he said, "He who is not with me is against me."
Secular humanism is now the dominant religious worldview of our government, our laws. It's taught in our schools and promoted by media. God has been banned from our schools, making atheism as the ultimate goal inside of our schools. The philosophy of a naturalistic worldview where we all got here out of nothing through natural means, no need of a creator. Thus, that is what is taught in biology evolution. No allowances for the idea that might be design and purpose through a creator. Psychology of self-actualization, ethics of a moral relativist worldview where they teach values clarification, situational ethics, no moral right or wrong anymore. Laws are based on positive law, man-made law. Man is his own God and creator of law versus a biblical law. Politics, world government, economics, socialism versus private property and capitalism. We promote the idea of recreational sex through our comprehensive sex education in our schools where there's no moral right and wrong there. And that sex is strictly for enjoyment. All you need is contraception to turn around and get along, and parents need to butt out.